turn into Garrett? Oh man, you're amazing. Thank you. That's exactly why I'm sitting right here. Yep.
It's 2 o'clock. We're already about 30 minutes different from our normal meeting, so thank you for your patience with that. Before we get started, does anyone have a guest or a page they would like to introduce? I would like to remind everybody to cut your cell phone on silent, and I will like to ask Representative Pascal to open us in prayer, please.
Let's pray. Father God, thank you for today. We come before you with thankful hearts for the honor of serving the people of this great state. As the House Committee, we ask that you give us clear minds, ears to listen, give us the discernment to make the right decision, best decisions for those in need. We ask this in your Son's precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I'll ask our clerk to call the roll.
Representative Collins.
Here.
Representative Baker.
Here.
Representative Drummond. Representative Crow. Representative Daniels. Representative DuBose. Representative Estes. Representative Fincher. Representative Gidley. Representative Gray. Representative Morris. Representative Paramore. Representative Pascal. Representative Ross. Representative Smith. A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're going to go a little bit out of order for various reasons, and so I'm going to ask the clerk to call the first agreed upon bill.
Senate Bill 72 by Senator Chasteen.
Senate Bill 72, Senator Chasteen was good enough to be here at 1:30 and not at 2. And this is the bill that the House has already passed pretty handily. And so it is the Re-Engage Act that was carried in here, House Bill 125. And it simply lowers the age from 25 to 22 for participants who have been out of school to be able to come back into school with a grant. If you remember that bill, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those. Otherwise, I'd be happy to entertain a motion. Thank you, Representative Pascal. Motion to give the bill a favorable report. Second by Representative Baker. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Senate Bill 72 is given favorable report. Call the next bill.
Senate Bill 74 by Senator Chasteen.
Thank you very much. We also have passed this on the House floor, and it was AMSTEP, which was a loan reimbursement for teachers that are teaching in the field but have loan debt to try to help them pay that off. It was for math and science teachers, and it was called AMSTEP. You may remember that name. This one changes it to LACIA, which is a loan assistance for, I'm drawing blank. I'm sorry. Loan assistance in support of educators in Alabama. So it would be for any hard-to-fill area, an area where there's a shortage of some type, and it would open them up for that loan reimbursement for 4 years, as long as they're teaching in the state of Alabama. I don't know if y'all remember that. It was House Bill 124, and I'm happy to take any questions or to entertain a motion. Motion by Representative Crow, second by Representative Drummond. Any questions? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The Senate Bill 74 is given a favorable report. Clerk, if you'll call the next bill.
House Bill 382 by Representative DuBose.
All of you were given, while she's making her way to the podium, a substitute bill. She's going to talk about her bill, and then she's going to explain the sub, and then we'll do as the committee chooses to do.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, committee. I'm here today to present this bill which allows public universities of higher education to choose an accreditor that's approved by the United States Department of Education. As it is now, all of our universities of higher ed are required to be approved by SACS accreditor. And we have seen coming in opportunities for other accreditors, specifically one entitled the Commission for Public Higher Education. I believe that opportunities among accreditors, competition among accreditors can make us all stronger. And while some of the universities may not choose at all to change, they may stay right where they are, and that's perfectly fine. It gives them the option to choose another accreditor, and it provides a way for that to be done. You have to have dual accreditation until the other accreditor is approved. So, for example, right now, the new accreditor that's come out, the Commission for Public Higher Education, is going through about a 2-year process with the U.S. Department of Education in order to be approved. And there are some states that have already adopted that accreditor, but they have to maintain their current accreditation. So for a while, there could be a dual enrollment process going on. So it sort of explains the process for doing that. This bill would also prohibit accrediting agencies from requiring a public institution of higher education to violate state law or from taking adverse action against an institution for its compliance with state law. So, for example, and I don't know that this is going on. Supposedly, the accreditors don't do that, but we want to make this perfectly clear that an accreditor cannot require a university to comply with anything that's in violation of state law simply to become accredited. That would be a violation. So this bill makes that clear. And as far as what the sub did, it technically didn't change anything. We just wanted to be extra clear to make sure everyone knows this does not affect our private universities. This is just for public. And there's a change on page 5 where we're defining approved institution that we clarified here. A state-supported institution of higher education accredited by any nationally recognized accrediting agency approved by the United States Department of Education, or a private nonprofit institution of higher education accredited by SACS. So the privates don't change. The publics have the opportunity to change if they like. So I haven't really had an opportunity to discuss this with any of you guys, and I know we have a sub, so I'd like to take this opportunity to answer any questions that you may have regarding this bill.
I would like to start us out with a question too, Representative DuBose. I've found that all accreditations are not equal. What are some things that you have found out that might ensure the quality of that accreditation is comparable to what we've had in the past?
Well, we want our universities to be able to have that option to choose an accreditor that more closely aligns with what's important to them, whether it's graduation rates or workforce rates or pay when you graduate. Just because you've had a certain accreditation doesn't mean that you're the quality of school that a university would like to be. So this, honestly, it gives competition among accreditors, and it gives options to universities so that they have an accreditor of value that matches what their goals are within the university.
Are there any other questions? Representative Baker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Have you received any type of response or feedback from any of the institutions of higher ed on this, just in general?
Yes, we've worked with all of them, and they're fine. I mean, because it just gives them an option. It doesn't require that they do anything. We've worked extensively with AIC on language with Dr. Purcell and his staff, and they've been very thorough in going through all this and making sure that we didn't miss anything in any of our codes. There was a lot to go through, and we've worked very closely with them on that. So I think we haven't had any body express any concerns.
Very good. I felt like you had. I'm just interested to hear that.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you so much. Yeah,
thank you.
Because this is very much under that Commission of Higher Education, would Dr. Purcell be willing to come, and since he's been reviewing it, and give us a little input since there is a sub for today?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Jim Purcell, Alabama Commissioner of Higher Education. Yeah, we looked at reviewed the sub. We gave a lot of advice. We've had conversations since the summer on this. We're real comfortable with where it is settled. I think it really is a good bill as it is coming forward now.
Can you help maybe answer the question I'd had too about the comparability of the quality of the accreditations between the different groups?
Right. All of them that they would have to be would be Title IV eligible, which are the federal government has to sanctify these.
Right.
So in that sense, they all have a certain metric of quality. Certainly, there's some accrediting groups that are better than others. This particular organization that we know some of the universities may be going toward is for public universities, mostly research universities, so a lot of them in the South, University of North Carolina, University of Florida, I think University of Georgia. So we know that that cadre of type of institutions is going to be quality, so I don't really have the risk. I think most of the regionals are going to stay where they are. SACS has, other things that may be beneficial, but the universities, the flags, I think that they want to be a part of something sort of slightly bigger or better. So, and usually what happens with these accrediting groups, they may start with specific rules, but after that, it's really the membership that defines the organization and changes the regulations. So I would think as those members come into that, there'll be some massaging of the quality to assure, because I think what they're trying to do is communicate that they're a cut above.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Purcell. Are there any other questions for the sponsor? She's kind of explained her sub and what the changes were. Is anyone comfortable making a motion right now?
So move.
Representative to adopt the sub by Representative Pascal, second by Representative, who is that, Ross? Everybody's changed seats. We've played topsy-turvy up here. Any other questions? All in favor of adopting the sub, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So the sub is adopted. Are we comfortable voting on the sub coming out? Do I hear a motion? We have a motion to adopt the sub and give it, well, we've adopted the sub, to give the substitute bill a favorable report by Representative Baker, a second by Representative Pascal. Are there any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The adopted sub is given a favorable report.
Thank you. Thank you, committee.
Thank you. I'm going to now turn the meeting over to our vice chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If the clerk would call the next bill.
House Bill 380 by Representative Collins.
Chairwoman Collins, as you make your way to the mic, then you have the floor.
I, as many of you, serve on Education Ways and Means as well. And several weeks ago, Chairman Garrett brought a bill that would allow contiguous cities to combine their school boards if they chose to do so. It's permissive and not that. And I thought we've talked a lot, especially this session, on education and thinking outside the box, fixing yourselves, doing some things in a different way. And so I had the idea not to interfere with his bill, but to offer another bill that would allow counties, in particular, smaller counties. I think we have 7 to 10 with less than 1,000 students. And if they were to not do away with their boards, every county would still have a school system just like our Constitution says. That's why it's a constitutional amendment. But if they so choose, totally permissive, they could work with 1 or 2 counties around them to combine that administration, so it would be less money going for each of them into administration. They would be working together. There would be economies of scale, and it would let them put then more money back into the classroom. That is the goal of what I'm trying to do. Let's think out of the box. Let's think of doing things differently. I had someone research it for us a little bit, Jonathan Davis, and he found other states that have been looking at ways to do this. It is completely permissive. And I actually spoke also with Parka last night. This is an educational issue that they are interested in looking at, potentially doing a study that would see for both cities and counties how this could be beneficial and what that would look like. And it is a constitutional amendment, so it would be on our ballot in November. But hopefully we would have a study that would actually tell us some benefits that they see through that study. And at this time, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Representative Gidley.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Collins, we had a little discussion about this, and you reiterated the fact this is not mandated. It is just allows them the privilege to do this. You said one thing there is that I just want you to clarify they would not necessarily be combining their schools, or would they?
They would be combining their school boards. They would not be doing away with either one of them. If you are familiar with the city legislation, one actually closes. This one is not. Every system would still have their county board, but it would be a multi-county board, so you would have members from each of the counties involved on that board, and then they could, as I've described it, they could go and look for a rock star superintendent like you would look for a coach. And then they could make good decisions with every county being represented that would affect all of the counties.
You'd have like one superintendent, but you still would have multiple boards.
You would have one multi-county board.
Okay.
It would still be one board, but it would have membership from each of the counties participating. Okay. And it's totally voluntary. If you look at the bill, it does spell out pretty much that they would have to consider this as something that would be reasonable, and they want to. All members would have to agree to a formal. Each county might have their own debt, and they would have to figure out how they're going to pay for that. A lot of these are smaller rural counties, and some of them might potentially have different millage that they pay, although my understanding is that majority of them pay minimum. So my goal would be to put a little bit less in administration, get some economies of scale, but mostly be able to put more money back into the classroom. And it also asks the state board, once they've decided they want to try this, to actually do an impact study on how that would be beneficial to them. And I would imagine whatever study that Parker has done, hopefully in the next few months, would be beneficial as well.
Representative Smith.
Thank you for what you're trying to do here. I think cost of administration many times takes a lot of money away from our classrooms, and I'll always be leaning toward putting more money in the classroom. A question here, how would this work where you have elected boards and where you have elected superintendents?
That's a great question. Those boards would have to work out how they want it to work out. And so I'm not telling them how to work it out. It's just back to the fix yourself kind of quote I think I've heard Chairman Garrett say several times. This would let them come up with how it would best work for them. I'm not telling them how to do it. I could be happy to tell them what I think would be more beneficial for their counties. If they were wanting to call and chat with me about it next year, I'll have a lot of time on my hands.
One. Representative Pascal.
Madam Chairman, you mentioned other states is already doing this.
There was one in Arkansas. There was one in Connecticut. A lot of the others that I saw were doing things a little bit differently, and I don't know if they've passed theirs yet. I've not had a chance to research in that as much. Missouri had several, New Jersey, but theirs were also a little bit different. They were combining into regional schools, and they were doing some of it was a consolidation, and this is not about this. This is just about allowing counties to work in a little bit different way, especially the smaller ones that are, I think it has a great possibility of adding more money back into the classroom.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Before I get to Representative Crowe, then I would just add this comment, Representative Pascal. It varies from state to state in regards to, that is, the framework, the system. Some states don't necessarily have city school systems. Florida, being one that only has county school systems. Alabama has city and county and all. But I'm saying, so you had Chairman Garrett came up with the idea regarding city to city as maybe not forcing anyone, but just allowing that opportunity if that might be a good fit for two city then entities. Chairwoman Collins has now come up with concepts sort of extending that to the counties, allowing it to be to county. Once again, very permissive, and it would be a CA to go before a vote of the people. But thank you for your question there. Representative Crowe, you recognized.
Mike.
Sorry. Talk me through just I understand the best thing that I know Representative Gidley says was this is optional, right?
Permissive,
so,
yes.
Yeah. So if
no one's even asking you one to, it would be them coming up with this on their own.
So if there were a couple of, I mean, in your mind, a couple counties that wanted to combine, right? I know that I reread this today that you'd have to, the people would have to vote, correct?
Yes.
But before that happened, what would the process be? if let's say two rural counties maybe say that they wanted to combine, what would have to happen, and would they have to go to the state board? I'm reading this, but just what's the process?
The process would be, if you're looking on page 2, right around lines 43 and 44, they would have an agreement that they would work out with a resolution from every county involved, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, whatever, that they would have a resolution and all of their members would have to agree on it. They would have to work on any indebtedness. They would work on how the consolidation is going to work. They would work on all those issues that y'all brought up, and they would have their own plan about how that would work. Then how it's going to operate, what the roles are going to be, the designation of the time frame that it's going to happen. They would then finalize all that so it could go for a formal resolution, and then the state board would do an impact study. Is this going to be beneficial? How are the transportation, operations, finances, taxes going to work? So it's got a multi-level thing. The constitutional amendment would just simply allow us to try it if counties want to. That's all we would be voting for in November. If that happens within 30 days, if you keep looking down, I'm on line 64, 65 now, there's still an option out, an opposition. If 25% of the population don't want it, then they can opt out of not doing it. But if it goes before those counties in that a special ballot by them and the majority of those counties approve it, then a judge, they would work through that whole issue, and then they would be for or against if it was decided to consolidate and do a multi-county board. I'm on line 99 now. Then the state board would adopt rules of how that would work.
Okay.
So it's pretty specific. I went to Othny and we tried to think through all the different parameters, and I want it to be. It should be. I mean, there shouldn't be oh my goodness, we forgot about that completely. And to me, doing an early impact study, a one for those specific counties later on after it's decided this is a potential wish, I think it's covered a lot of the areas that people would have concerns. I'd ask for a favorable report.
Thank you.
We have just maybe one or two more questions. Representative Ross?
I have more of a statement. Thank you for this. I love creative ways to do better things for education, and I think this is one of those.
Thank you. I thought the same thing when Chairman Garrett introduced his. I think, I will say on my soapbox since I'm out here, I think having a multi-board is potentially better than doing away with one. It's hard for me to imagine any system saying, we'd like to do away with our system. So I do think that this concept of a multi-board where everybody still has representation is more positive.
I would entertain a motion. I'm sorry. Representative Mars, I apologize. You did earlier, so forgive me for that then. Representative Mars, you're recognized.
Okay, so just thinking with the elected, so you have three, let's say you got three counties,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to combine.
Mm-hmm.
So who's going to determine
They would.
which, so like all board members pretty much know each other. So if we make a decision as a majority that we're going to combine, and I don't like board C, so we all make a decision that Miss Patty got to go.
Poor Miss Patty. Here's what I would say. Those are the semantics, but no one's telling them what to do. I will say out loud for the Miss Patties that are around that could be an incentive for different counties to go with someone else to have a multi-county board, because then that would be worked out. But this bill does not tell them how they have to do it or whatever. It is still up to each
I
county.
know, but
to
I
work out
think
those
that you
decisions.
should put some type of parameters where each board will have to have some type of representation, so Miss Patty would at least be still around. Because if Mary Patty,
Well, we're not asking anybody to have anyone taken out in this bill.
Oh no, but they gotta go.
But this one does let all members of agreeing boards have a detail and provide for how it will work. So they would, I don't think we need to add anything to accomplish that goal.
Okay, just thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? All right, there's been a motion then. Comment by Representative Gidley or a motion or both?
I motion for a favorable report. I do think this is good. Chairman Garrett and I have talked about this as well. You know, we have 3 school systems in our one county, and just making sure all the schematics. I do think you might want to put a amendment in there saying when they do this, no guns are allowed.
Yeah.
But,
I don't see that
no, I'm
going
kidding.
over
I'm
very
kidding.
well.
But I do move for favorable report, yeah.
Thank you.
All right, there's been a motion to give the bill a favorable report by Representative Gidley, a second by Representative Pascal. Any further discussion? Seeing none then, all those in favor say aye. Any opposed? No opposition. So with that then, HB 380 has been given a favorable report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, committee. I appreciate that. And like Representative DuBose, I didn't get to talk to anybody about either of the bills that are here. I was kind of just glad to get them filed before I left a week ago. So, I'll be quiet.
Okay. The clerk will call the next bill.
House Bill 396 by Representative Collins.
Thank
All right,
you.
HB 396, Chairwoman Collins, you and I have both discussed this bill and maybe about the direction for today as well as going forward. So I'll let you take the floor at this point.
Thank you very much. I've had a lot of discussion about House Bill 396 over the last few days. It is about the school grading bill. It is the A through F. I passed this bill in 12. If you look at my notes, some of the parts that are actually taken out are reminders that it took 6 years when it was supposed to have been implemented the next year. And we seem to sometimes drag our heels on making improvements and lifting our bar in education. I remember back to the day where this committee passed, even during a public hearing day, unanimously, the Literacy Act after every single education group spoke against it. And so pushing accountability and transparency has kind of been my theme and my goal over these years. I spoke with the school board for years trying to get them to, because the original bill would have let them implement a lot of these same changes, and I was not successful in any of that. And so what the school grading bill does is it takes the original concept that we have right now and it revises some of the weightings. We know that there are different things that make more of an impact. We want to have growth in our schools. We want to count achievement. There are a lot of systems that don't have as much control. We're winning awards for attendance. I think attendance is critical. You can't learn when you're not there. But it's not an achievement indicator. It's not, I would love for it to be on the report card, but I don't believe it needs to be weighted. I think there are certain school systems that struggle with that, and it's a 15% right off the bat knock off their score. So I have changed some of the weights, and I will explain some of the whys about that. It asks for the Department of Workforce, because we're preparing students for their career paths, whatever that might be. So it asks for the Department of the Workforce to work with the Department of Education to collect and analyze reporting to make sure that whether you're a college indicator or you're a career indicator, it's actually preparing students for the things we're telling them it's preparing them for. And then it sets up, lastly, an accountability council. In my mind, it's a little bit like that literacy task force, but they would be from different people, and they would review the data that's being collected to make sure, are there other changes down the road that need to be implemented, and they would then make recommendations to the department. I understand that a lot of people have some confusion and all about the bill, so I want to kind of go over it. The reason there's a with a 12th grade and without a 12th grade is because if you have 12th grade, there's graduation rate and there's college and career ready indicators. If you're an elementary or middle school or another choice of those, you don't have those. So therefore, it weights achievement, which is 20 for math, 20 for language arts. It counts growth of all the population of students, 20 for math, 20 for English, language arts. And then it counts the bottom 25%. Some people see that as a double plus. Some people see that as a double jeopardy. But the reason it does that is to try to close that educational gap that we know we have between one group of students and another. When I passed the bill in 12, Florida had passed it in 1990. They were, I think, 44th. They were in the bottom 10% of schools in the nation. Within 10 years, they became in the top 10% in just 10 years, but they lifted their bar 4 times in that first decade. They continue to raise their bar. We passed it in 2012. We've never raised our bar. Nowhere have we corrected or changed any of the weights. So those are for schools without graduation class. It lowers it if you have a 12th grade to achievement at 15% for math, 15% for language arts. The growth is 10 and 10, and the bottom 25% is 10. It changes the weighting of graduation from 30 to 10%, and it changes college and career readiness, which as of this year, every student to graduate has to have a college or career indicator. And so it changes that, which I believe is a higher bar, but I believe it's the bar that we want for our students. And so it changes that to 30%. It then lists out the indicators, most of the ones we use, all of the ones that we used when the bill was first passed, but it does set up some quantifiers, and I'm happy to go through that with different people. It also says that this group, the Workforce and Department of Education, would do basically what it calls a return on investment. We would look at the data, we'd see what's working, so that the advisory the accountability council could then make recommendations. It says if we have 60% of A's or B's, we would lift let me read it how it says it. The grading scale for all letter grades shall be raised 10 points. That's not 10 points out of 100%. If you're looking at it, the ACAP score is 800. So it'd be 10 points on there. It's like we're doing the Literacy Act. There is a cut score, and we are slowly but surely trying to raise that so that we get third graders to proficiency. That's my goal in here. It doesn't change some of the things I wish it did, but it does set up the Accountability Council. I've met with people for 2 days, plan to continue meeting with people, many of you in this room. I would love to answer questions because I base my changes on things that y'all talk to me about. And no one called for a public hearing on this. And so if y'all have got questions, I'd love to hear those. But as the chairman kind of referenced, I'm not planning on us voting on this today because I do plan to have a sub next week with some of the changes that y'all might mention. I'm happy now to stop talking. And
Thank you, Chairwoman Collins. I think we have several that are interested in being part of this discussion going forward. I do much appreciate and value your inclusivity and trying to gather feedback, outreach, particularly from a lot of the education family entities, which may be on varying levels in regards to support or either concerns in regards to this going forward. I would just make a personal comment. It does seem to be the thrust of this. From my perspective, what you seem to be wanting to work towards would be trying to raise the bar for student achievement and such, and that would be accomplished then through this A through F reporting, but not to keeping it at the same level, but trying to have it escalating then according to try to help drive and propel our students. All right, with that then, Representative Drummond, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I thank the gentlelady, and I want to also commend you for wanting to continue the dialogue and work with us.
Thank you.
I have several.
Okay.
I've been very quiet, haven't I? But my first one is the council that you're putting together. I look at and saw all of the individuals that you have that will be seated on that council, and I was curious why the minority leader of the Senate as well as the House are not a part of that, since many of them will be representing those bottom 25%.
I would not have a problem representing them on the board.
Okay.
We started, I wanted an odd number, and I got an odd number. To be perfectly honest, I'm asking Workforce to be a part of that too, and so I already have them added as well. And so I'm happy to consider that. Thank you for
Thank
bringing
you.
it up.
I have several.
No one else has brought that up, so thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you. I have others. I hope you'll be just amenable to the others.
Never know.
Because I too want to thank you for the Literacy Act and the numeracy, and I was a very big supporter of all of those. I was not here in 2012. Had I been here, I probably would have voted no. But with that being said, in reading the bill last night when I read it and I've got it all marked up, one of the things that I wonder, I know that we need to raise the bar, and I am all for challenging our young people, but we just got the highest report card that we have ever gotten. Which, for me, I was with one of my schools who we actually did a Mardi Gras parade for because I was so proud of what they had done. And with all of the problems that they have, these folks still defied the art, and they raised their bar. And so that's a testament to good teachers, good administrators, good school board members, all the way down the line.
Hard work by students.
A lot of work by students.
And I commend that, yes.
So I guess my first question to you would be, why are we trying to move the bar right now when we're experiencing so much success? And we're not putting any more money. We're not putting any more money into public education.
Well, we put more money in public education every single year. So you are on that budget committee, and you know that not to be true. We do add more money.
Well, let me say, they're
year.
not putting it in the areas in which I think that we continue to move that bar. We're putting it in other areas like workforce and so forth. And I know we're preparing our kids, but we're having so much success now.
Because we are funding that Literacy Act, the Numeracy Act, and different things that we're seeing are working. I want that success to continue and grow. And I believe that the way that Florida made a 30-something point jump in 10 years was because they continued to lift their bar. It's the way the Literacy Act's going to work, and it's the way this should be working. If we just settle on the good things we're doing now, we don't ever improve.
Yeah, if you look at Florida, we always keep comparing ourselves. We have different funding mechanism for funding education. If certain Florida has a number of those mechanisms that we don't have here in the state of Alabama. So you see them exceeding much further because they're putting much more money into those endeavor. But my second question is, and I happen to, as I said a moment ago, I represent some of those that are at the bottom 25%. I want them to come up, so please know.
Well, every school has a bottom 25%.
But I represent a lot of those. So I guess you told me, and I want you to talk about this a little bit more. You talked about the people who've talked to you about the double, because we are actually counting or having them to do counting them twice in two different areas, and I'm wondering, why is that?
The attention on the two different areas is trying to close that education gap so that those students don't get left behind, they don't just get written off, but they get an extra point if we see that growth. The other thing about that, it's a lot easier to take a student that is at that lower, that needs it, and once they get some high quality teaching and different things like that, it's easier to bring up that bottom than sometimes it is to keep that top moving forward. So that's what was successful in the schools that have used similar things, and that's the why I'm trying to close that educational gap.
But what if they don't get those things that they need and they're
do we just want to write those kids off?
No, I don't.
I don't either. That's why I want to
programs
measure
like the
that.
Literacy Act to help them actually do better and to catch them. And I think we will, because I think that Alabama, at least since I've been here in 2014, I've seen us throw things up against the wall to see if they were going to work. And I am proud to have been here, and we've thrown something up against the wall, and it is working. And I am wondering why we're trying to move the goalposts now until we get enough good data to say this is the time, not just because Florida did it, but it fit
Florida
Alabama.
did it in 1990, so I think we were past that one.
And we
We've
did it
seen
in
this one's
2012.
working.
We did it in 2012.
Well, we actually didn't until 2018, but we
Well-
are starting it, and I just want to see us to have that continued growth.
Talk about the chronic absenteeism that's also in this bill.
It's not in this bill. It should still, I would think the Department of Education, especially with the success that we've had, would continue to have that on the report card. But it's not an indicator of growth or achievement. It is definitely beneficial for the students if they are in attendance, and I would hope we continue. We've shown that we're willing to do what we can do at every school level to have the students there.
But you've taken it out, right?
I've taken out the weight. The department can still
But
put it on the
what I'm saying.
report
You
card.
took it out. I know.
I took out the weight.
Yeah, you took it out. You don't
Because
think
it's
that
not
will,
a thing of achievement or growth.
because that's even improving in Alabama.
And I love that. I would like to see that continue.
We'll talk more.
We will.
Thank you, ma'am.
Any other members? Representative Estes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Collins, first of all, let me, I addressed it with you privately yesterday, and I'll just say it publicly. So thank you for bringing me along, kicking and screaming in 2018 with the Literacy Act. I was concerned. A lot of folks in my district were concerned. And then you realize you get the man or woman up when you're down here, and that's what we're sitting down here for, is to make the tough decisions that we did. And I commend you for that, and I appreciate your patience with me as you tried to help educate me as to what we were doing. So I appreciate, looking back 8 years, your help with that. Also, I want to commend your efforts because I agree with the overall concept. I think we do, while we've got momentum, that train's moving forward, let's keep pushing. And so I support what you know. I just got a couple of questions I want to kind of clarify about that. So I'm for the overall concept. I've just got some things that have been brought to my attention that I would like to ask about. On page 4, line 112, there's one word that's confusing me a little bit. I'll let you get there.
I'm here.
Okay, it says student academic achievement growth,
Mm-hmm.
blah, 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 blah. The word growth concerns me. Educate me a little bit as to what I'm missing here. It sounds like
We already have that indicator now. We have a growth measurement now. And it's just saying achievement is based on the score of the students in there. And the growth is based on how they have moved forward over a year's time. If you are considering especially the growth of that bottom 25%, you might get a 5th grade student, but they may be on a 2nd grade level. If you have growth in that student from a 2nd grade and you move them up, maybe not to 5th, but to 4th, you've still had 2 years growth. And so measuring that growth, especially in the state of Alabama, is very important.
Well, that was my misunderstanding, so I apologize for that. I was almost interpreting that as if, okay, we have set standards, and that's what our school systems are trying to achieve. And I misinterpreted that as if it was saying you're going to get based on growth, as if it were a target that was getting further and further away. And
Well, you're trying to all get to achievement.
now I understand that better now. Question from my principals. So help educate me on this one too. We've got so many kids now doing dual enrollment, and believe me, I'm no expert on this. I don't serve on the school board back home anymore, so I don't follow some of these things quite as close as I probably should. But obviously, interest in dual enrollment's growing, and I'm going to use the words of one of my principals. He said, "Well, I've got kids that encourage other kids to go do your dual enrollment online. It's an easier class." And these kids go, their ACT exam is somehow, and I don't claim to understand all that, but it's somehow given through the dual enrollment program. Well, what's their fear is then you're taking some of your higher achieving students, and that credit's going to the junior college level where they're actually going through that process with dual enrollment to get their ACT score. And all of a sudden, some of those higher scores are now removed from the pool of which the local school system is graded upon. And that makes the report card grade drop with it lists their overall ACT score. So what am I missing?
Okay, here's what I want to say, first of all, to the Mr. Chairman and the committee, is that we have another committee in here at 3, so we've got about 5 more minutes, and I am still willing to continue dialogue with anybody that's wanting to over the next. There has been some confusion, too. Some schools are actually letting their students that are in the 11th grade take a 12th grade dual enrollment 101, and then they're not getting the preparation for the ACT. Those are all Department of Education issues. They can set parameters and guidelines for how dual enrollment works. I have long been concerned about the quality of the dual enrollment and how truly prepared it's making, which is what I want that accountability council to look into. Is it really working? Are they prepared? If they use a college indicator, are they prepared to go to college? We should be looking at that. If they're using a career indicator, are they prepared to go into a career? I do have, like I said, several changes I'm going to make, but some of these things on willy-nilly letting people do different things, those are guidelines that schools are perfectly capable of making those decisions their own on what's best and what's allowable.
So let me follow that up. And I agree with everything you just said. Could the local school board then step in and say, okay, come up with some kind of policy that says all ACT exam scores taken by our students are going to count toward our report card? I know that would be bad for one
I'd
school
have
board
to
to step
understand
out.
that better because I've not heard that particular thing. If a dual enrollment, they're getting a college credit while they are also getting a high school credit. That's what that means. So I don't know why it wouldn't count. Now, what I heard is that because they were doing it in the 11th grade before they took their ACT, they weren't getting the 11th grade English so that they were being prepared for that. That was the problem I heard. And I'm willing to work with that or the other issues if there are. But many of the issue I've heard too, it's simply some department and I think things like that usually come better from the Department of Education at the state level.
I agree. And that was my only concern. I appreciate you educating me. I want to follow up on that at some other time
Happy
I
to.
can, because I had 3 principals call me, and that was their concern, was we're losing our best ACT scores. And when the report card under this would show up, it would look like we've dropped off academically.
And I think we're misunderstanding something that they're trying to tell.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We are
3 minutes.
Okay, we are somewhat pressed for time. With that, then we are not taking a vote on the bill today. Chairwoman Collins has made it very clear that she's very receptive, inclusive to hear thoughts, feedback going forward on this. So, members, any of you that need a follow up with her, then please get with her. She would welcome that. To any of the education family entities, we appreciate you as well and your input. I know there's already been extensive dialogue that you've had with several of the entities, but I know you're willing to have that continued discussion with any and all. With that, are there
I
any
do
closing
plan to have
comments?
a sub with changes that I already have. I will try to get it to you as soon as I can. What I will try to do too is get a sub to you. I can't promise as early as Friday, but I'll say by Monday early. And it could still change because I could still be taking improvement ideas. But I will try to get you at least an early sub as soon as I can. I promise.
Thank you, members.